Welcome to the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. We discuss 5 questions in about 10 minutes, and I am very excited to welcome our guest today. This is Wendy Caverly. She is the founder of Crusaders Networking out of Howell, Michigan. Wendy, thank you so much for being on the show today. What would you like the audience to know about Crusaders Networking?
All right. Well, Sean, thank you so much for having me. And I guess the one thing that I want people to know is that networking is a skill that is just as important to learn and perfect as selling and marketing, because you need those 3 things to be truly successful in life. And sincere connections is the one skill that's going to give you the longest, most sincere success possible.
I love what you're doing, Wendy. I'm a big proponent of networking. I do it myself. I love it. I love connecting with people, and I love what you're doing. So kudos to you for helping us all be better networkers. So that's
Thank
great.
you. Thank you. And just for the listeners, quick reminder, networking is a lot more than business cards and cocktails. So, yeah.
Yes. That's why I love what you do, Wendy, because you're taking it to a much deeper and better level. So good for you. All right, well, let's get to our questions. The first question, share a time when you've had a conflict with a coworker and how you resolved it.
Okay, so my last traditional corporate job, the clock in, clock out, Monday through Friday job, where I had to sit at a desk all day long, I just really did not do well with my coworker ladies that I sat next to, and so I struggled with them. I struggled with how they did things and what they got away with and all of that. And how did I resolve it? I resolved it by quitting my job. And actually, honestly, I very much account the moment and the opportunity around that as the spark that led me to the path of where I am today. So I am grateful that I quit my job.
You reached a point where you said, this is not going to work for me. It's time to move aside. And sometimes that is kind of what's necessary, is we have to just
Yes.
say, let's find a new environment, a new playing field, if you will. And that's just kind of the way it needs to be. But well, thank you for being willing to share that story. Question number 2. Now, I'm sure you've heard the phrase that people don't leave jobs, they leave managers. What is one suggestion that you would offer on how managers and leaders can retain talent?
Okay, so that's the other half of the story from question number 1. The reason why I got into these conflicts with my coworkers is because I went to my manager for help. How do I handle this? And her response was, figure it out, which a lot of leaders thinks is a great response because you're empowering the person, but you don't get to then judge how they handled it as right or wrong. And that's what happened. I did not handle it the way my manager would have wanted. So that actually was that breaking point when she said, I asked you for help. And her response was, but you didn't do it right. That was the moment I realized I needed to leave that job. So when you do have people who legitimately come to you and say the words, I need help, help them, and do that by listening. Listen to them, give them 15-20 minutes of your time. You don't want them to feel as if they're insignificant or unimportant.
I love what you said. I'm sorry you had to go through that, but it really hits a critical point about leadership, that it's a lot more than, and I like how you said it, that sometimes leaders think they have to empower their people. And yes, that is true, but you do that by helping them solve their own problem, but not by throwing them into the deep end of the pool without a life raft somewhere,
100%.
That's a good example of how a leader was trying to do the right thing, but maybe missed the mark just a little bit. Not to sound too critical of that good person, but there are times when we need to be more coaches and helpers than just managers and leaders by definition. So great. Thank you again for sharing that story. That's a difficult one, but I appreciate your openness and honesty. So question number 3, how can leaders build resilience in a team?
I think it's really important for leaders to make sure that the teams, not only as individuals, feel heard, but oftentimes, especially from a networking standpoint, understand the importance of the role they're playing in the bigger picture. That way, you don't think the person down the line from you is less important than you, and you don't think the person up the line from you is more important. It's each of us have to play our role to the level that is expected of us, so the product, the service, the customer gets the very best out of all of us. So it's not you drop the ball or you drop the ball. It's a we. I think that that's really important. And part of that too is, once again, listening to your employees and not playing favorites. I know it's very easy when you grow relationships with those that you lead. But if somebody feels there's a clique or an A team or an elite list, you're building resentment without even realizing it. So you really do need to make sure that people feel this, if they're all treated equal, regardless of the circumstances.
Great observations. And I could not agree more. It really is. Resilience really is a we effort. It can't be just each person on their own. Certainly there's things that each of us can do on our own to build our own self reliance or self resilience, if you will. But boy, it sure makes a huge difference if we're networking, as you've obviously learned how to do, and allowing that network to help us build that resilience as well. I love that.
And I think internal networking is overlooked a lot. They think it's a frontward facing thing, but networking is relationship building, and that's just as important in the department, in a business, as outside.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I could not agree more. You are absolutely right. It's all networking really is relationship building. I love how you said that. And all of us need to work on that. We all need to work on how we can build our relationships with each other. I love it.
Thank you.
Question number 4, can you share an example, or maybe you want to recognize someone that has made a difference in your life?
So there's a lot of people who filled this role, and both good and bad. I mean, there are people that were horrible to me, and that made a difference because it taught me what I don't want to do, or who I don't want to be, or whatever the case may be. But I know this is a weird thing, or maybe it's not weird. I want to say that my parents being in Amway in the 80s made a difference in my life, because I grew up in a household of people who, if I want more, I have to do more. My success is my responsibility. I am not defined by this role I'm in right now. I have greater things that I want to do. So it's not one person, and it's not such an easy thing, but I truly, truly, truly credit my entrepreneurial spirit as having watched others take responsibility for their successes and failures into their own hands, instead of trying to make other people responsible for that.
I really like that. Yeah, there is an accountability that each of us need to have, and that's typically a learned process. And I love that you recognize your parents as helping to build that notion in you and help build that ideal that, hey, you are responsible for your own success. I love that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Wendy, last question. Tell us a little bit about your first job.
So my first job was a pretzel stand in the middle of the local mall, Genesee Valley Mall in the Flint area. And it was a freestanding kiosks, which meant come Christmas time, we were literally surrounded by people waiting in line. And it was probably no bigger than my desk, right? 6 people, you had your station. I truly, truly, truly believe, I say that a lot, but I think every person's first job should be food. So you learn what you want, what you don't want. You actually learn a lot of responsibility, because there's a cleanliness feature to it, and you got the machine with the money register,
Yep.
And things to prep and temperatures to take, and that good old fashioned. The mall closed at 9, but there's still work to do, because the work has to be done before you go home. And I only did the job for about 6 months because I didn't like food. But but you learn a lot. You learn a lot from those jobs, and I think that's important. Yeah. Your first job should be fast food, everyone.
I agree. I've had many guests have said something similar, that it should be food, the service industry, something where you're kind of waiting on people and getting a sense for how people can behave in different circumstances and how to deal with it. So
Yeah.
I like it. Pretzels. All right. Now I'm hungry for a pretzel. All right. All right, Wendy, thank you so much for being on the show today. How can people find you?
Well, I have a website, wendycaverly.com. It's a pretty nice comprehensive site, but also find me on LinkedIn. I love connecting with new people. Wendy C. Caverly on LinkedIn. Let's connect. Let's learn a little bit more each other. Let's see if there's some synergy.
Fantastic. This is Sean Richards with the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. For more ideas, we encourage you to go to teamengagementpodcast.com. And we also encourage you and invite you to subscribe or to follow or to tag it or whatever you're supposed to do these days and whatever platform you're on. So we'd love to have you join us more for future episodes. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.